I must say, I was listening to your comments earlier on in relation to the tracker stuff, and the rage inside me was getting stronger and stronger, because it was being passed off as that it was you didn't communicate, or you didn't perform, give the information that was required, and that this is an industry-wide issue. Like, and you talk about the redress scheme and trying to right the wrongs, and you talked about how you apologise again to your customers, but this wasn't just an information flaw. Like, you've provided us in our question and answers, it's not connected, but you've provided us the salaries of yourself and your colleagues, some of you earning up to €500,000. You've watched these individuals lose their homes. You actually took the homes from some of these individuals. In my view, this was daylight robbery by a financial institution who took money off their own customers. And not only when this was pointed out to you by those very same customers, you denied it. When the Financial Serviceman's Ombudsman said that yous were wrong and your customers were right, you fought the Ombudsman. When the High Court told yous that yous were wrong and they were right, you fought the High Court, and you went all the way to the Supreme Court. And while you robbed these customers, you took their houses off them as well, some of them. And then you tried to pass it off as that this was an issue of information, that this is an industry-wide issue. This wasn't just a small little error within the bank. I sat with one of these customers who had a letter out saying that she should voluntarily surrender her family home with arrears of just over €400. First time ever in arrears. I looked at the contract, and it was as plain as day to me that that individual was entitled to go back onto a tracker rate. And that was one of the appeals that went to the Financial Service Ombudsman. Now, if I did that, if I took €20,000 from one of these individuals, I would be locked up in the Joy. But unfortunately, the history here in this state is that bankers can rob their customers, and I'm not targeting this at individuals, but I'm talking about institutions, can rob their customers and then dress it up as a redress scheme. We'll give you back the money, and no heads roll at all within the bank.
In terms of your second point around personal accountability, I repeat what I said at the time. I have found no evidence to suggest that anyone within the group took a conscious decision to deprive customers of the trackers. And if any such evidence emerges, I'll take the action that is appropriate.
I'll give you some evidence. See, when the Financial Serviceman Ombudsman said you were wrong, that was your evidence. But obviously something happened at board level that decided, no, we will appeal this to the High Court. Now, whether there was a conscious or deliberate effort at the original point in time, when they were moved off, when they were not replaced on the tracker rates, when the Financial Serviceman Ombudsman found that you were in error, you should have rectified the situation. Afterwards, when the High Court found that you were in error, you should have rectified the situation. Now, there was a conscious effort, and that's the point I'm making. In layman's term, if this happened anywhere outside a financial institution, people would be locked up in Mountjoy. Because what happened here is individuals' money was stolen. It was stolen by a financial institution. And the redress scheme, which is forced upon you, you have to make right. The central bank have made that clear. And you did the right thing, but you had no option but to stand up and say that you're going to make right. What you are doing is returning the original money that you took from them back to the customer with a little bit of top-up for the pain and suffering that they caused, amounting to about 10%. And that's the problem here. So I put it to you that there was a conscious effort and a decision taken, and maybe you can enlighten this committee whether you were part of the decision-making process that either appealed to the High Court, not sure if you were there at the time, or to the Supreme Court.
The facts are the facts that I explained in 2015, Deputy.
Is that a yes or a no?
I can only answer your question, which is, in June 2015, I apologised on behalf of the organisation. We put in place the scheme. Again, I apologise to you this afternoon if you felt that the use of the term industry-wide tracker review or information was something to deflect from that. I give you my word that it wasn't. I was merely answering a different question. Can I ask you to answer the question? Were you involved in the decision of your institution
to appeal the High Court decision to the Supreme Court?
I was involved in that decision, that's correct.
You were involved in that decision.
Yeah.
And you were involved in that decision knowing at that time that there were dozens, probably 80 I think, that were before the FSO. So at least you knew at that case that there were 80 similar cases before the FSO, that the High Court has made a determination that you had erred in law. No high-paid executives within Permanent TSB sitting around a board table decides, we're going to fight this. And you take it to the Supreme Court, and it takes months and months after that before the decision is eventually taken to withdraw the appeal, because the central bank have come in with a review and said you have to make right the wrongs that you have done. Now, that's the problem here. It's not like there is no accountability within the financial institution. Nobody is going to be held accountable for this. That's like, how could nobody be held accountable for this? You've robbed 1,372 of your customers. Like, that's what happened here. You took their money. You are giving it to them back now in the redress scheme. But how come nobody is going to be held accountable within the financial institution for this, when it became known that this is what was happening?
So the issue's been categorised by you and others as a lot of things. And the facts are that it was a systems design failure on our part and a legacy issue before I started, where I would leave it.
Well, there's no point, obviously, dealing with this issue much more, because you've made your statement. You'll continue to dress it up in the way that you have and present it in the way that you have, that a system failure. It was not a systems failure. A systems failure is when a computer throws out an interest rate that's wrong. This was people at the end of the phone saying, you have put me onto the wrong rate. I want my tracker rate back. And decisions being taken by individuals within banks to say, no, you're not entitled to that tracker rate back. That's not a systems failure. That was people within the bank. That was decisions that were taken at a high level that was being filtered down to staff who were answering phones.